Welcome back to LearnPianoLive.com. My name is Jamin, and as you can tell from the countdown clock, the lesson is about to get started. In case you're new with us, there's a few things I'd like to show you to help you throughout the lesson. So most people don't realize it, but pianists are actually responsible for a lot of different instruments all at the same time, because your inner voices, like your thumb and your pointer fingers, those would be playing like what the guitarist would be playing. The lower fingers are playing, the lower instruments, the bass player, the tuba player. The upper fingers up here are going to be playing what like the singer would be singing, or the trumpet player, or saxophonist, soloist, stuff like that. So you've actually got lots of different things going on at the same time. So when we go to cover a song, the question isn't what are the right notes to play, but how do we recreate the feel of the entire band? That's the goal of today's lesson. It's kind of an ear training lesson, kind of a theory lesson. We're going to be orchestrating and layering and arranging and pulling apart what has gone into making the song that we're looking at today. The goal is that eventually, after you watch me do this several times, you'll be able to go back to your own songs and start picking out the parts of your own songs better, and then be able to recreate the feel of the song and not just play the right notes. These lessons are always guided and shaped by your questions, and if you're live with us today, there's a couple different ways you can do that. One is in the public live chat, and the other is the Ask Jamin a Question button, where you can ask me a question privately, and I won't share your identity in case you're afraid that your question is stupid. But it's not. If you're in the archives, though, then just open up the survey. At the end of that, there's a place where you can ask your question. I will say I frequently get questions from students in the archives watching a lesson from 6 months ago, and I have no idea what they're talking about. So please try to be as specific as possible. If you're watching this at LearnPianoLive.com, there should be a PDF and an MP3 button right next to this video. The PDF will often have additional video links inside, so you can get more in-depth instruction on each of the topics. And if you're the kind of person who likes to print out the PDF so you can make the same notes on your physical version as I'm making during the lesson, now would be the time to do that. The MP3 is just a play-along track so you can practice more after the lesson. In traditional lessons, a teacher is going to actually present some new concept for maybe 5 or 10 minutes every couple weeks. The rest of the time is going to be spent applying and refining those concepts. Well, here I'm spouting off hours of new information every week, so it's totally unreasonable to expect you to actually absorb all of that. Instead, the goal of these live lessons is for you to find some little nugget of something that makes sense, but is a bit of a challenge, and for you to go practice it, because practice is where all the improvement's going to happen. So don't feel bad if you have to leave the live lesson when you find that little thing that you're going to practice. And of course, if I'm going too fast, you can always rewind the live lessons or replay in the archives as much as you want. If these live lessons start feeling random or meandering, it's because they are, on purpose. So if you're the kind of person who wants classical training with a step-by-step method, then you're going to want to check out Kloppel Academy on the website. It's included in your live lesson subscription, so you can do both or either. And the upper levels are seriously hard work, but it's going to take you all the way from ground zero all the way up to being ready to enter any major music college as a piano major in classical or jazz. And thankfully, I think that's about all we need to cover before the lesson. So if you'd stick around afterwards and fill out the survey, I would love your feedback. But for now, let's have some fun and make some music. And welcome back to LearnPianoLive.com. My name is Jamin, and this is our moderator, Kendra.
Hey, what's up?
What's up?
How are you?
Oh.
Wait, do you want me to do the same thing? Wait, I'm confused.
No, go ahead. You can share your news. That was a perfect time for it.
Okay, cool. So a couple days ago, I posted an original song of mine on YouTube called Brick by Brick.
Yes.
And it was inspired by a book I read. And the author of the book I read retweeted my song.
That's awesome.
Fireworks.
Somewhere that author is probably going, I wrote this book, and then this genius music creator wrote this song about my book. Can you believe it? So I'm glad you're both very, very excited, and reasonably so. So today, let's take a look at this Dance in the Moonlight thing that we've been working on. I'm just going to go ahead and jump in and record the first melody track. The song, of course, is this thing right here. That thing. So what we're going to start with is the melody, just playing the melody, and hopefully if you were at last week's lesson and it all made sense and you had plenty of time to practice, then you can play some of the melody. So you'll be able to do what I'm going to be doing here. I'm just going to be playing along with your play along is just a metronome. It's crazy boring. It doesn't make any sense unless you're here at the lesson. It just sounds like this. It's stupid. So I'm going to use 8 clicks at the beginning as my count off. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in my head, I'm going to hear the and that is all down here as well. We have all of those chords that are listed there. So there are 9 bars at the beginning, and again, this is I'm not covering a lot of the stuff that we covered last week in the lesson. So there's 9 measures there at the beginning, and then we would start our verse right there. We've got a 4-bar interlude right there, and then we've got an 8-bar interlude later. So, having said all of that, let me just make a couple notes on the page here. This intro is 9 bars right there. I'll count those off for you here on my hands. I can't make any noises, or else, of course, I'll go in the recording. Interlude is going to be 4 bars, and then this other interlude is going to be 8 bars. Other than that, I'm just playing the melody straight through, making sure I do the right number of verses and choruses, and then we'll add to that the bass, guitar, the drums, all of the other stuff in there, of course, the vintage electric piano that's in there and all that stuff, and then eventually build this thing up into hopefully something that sounds somewhat like the original song. But we'll start with the piano part, playing just the melody. Want to make sure I get that. There we go. On your mark, get set. Let me also do this. That one's going to make more sense. And that's the part where it all fades out there. So that thing in the middle is going to really haunt me here for quite some time, I've got a feeling. But oh well, we'll have to fix that at the end. For right now, that mistake's just going to stay in there. Maybe that's why when you're playing through it, you just play through it with one hand. You don't try to double it up on your first take. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to go back and... There we go. So now we have the melody added in. Hopefully, like I said, you already know how to do that. If you were at last week's lesson, it would just be a matter of practice, being able to get all that stuff done. But for now, I guess it's time for our feature of the day, which has a lot to do actually with transcribing these parts and stuff. Whether it's reading sheet music or transcribing some solo or something, there is... Oh, and Kendra, you're in the shot now. Hi.
Hi, sorry.
It helps out a whole lot to start at the end of the section and then find out what the last note is and then work your way backwards towards the front. So find out what that last note is. In transcribing stuff that you're listening to on your ear training, it makes it a whole lot easier because the last note, the first note is usually easy to hear, and the last note is usually easy to hear. It's all the stuff in the middle that we get lost on. So you can transcribe that first note, figure out what the first note is, and then get that last note, then you can work your way towards the middle. Also, if you're working on a piece of sheet music, especially those longer pieces, usually what happens is you play that first part over and over and over, and then you add a little bit to it, and you play it over with that new added part, then you play it again with a new added part, and by the time you get to the end of the song, you've played the end of the song, maybe like once or twice or 3 times perfectly, and you've played that first part 1 trillion times. So the beginning of the song sounds great, it just kind of gets worse and worse and worse as it goes along. Well, if you start at the end and keep adding notes to the front of the section that you know, then that means that as you play the piece, it'll end up sounding better and better and better the farther you go through the song. So starting at the end and working your way forward is a really helpful thing to do, whether you're reading a new piece of music, transcribing music, or whatever it is that you're working on. I highly recommend starting at the end and working your way forward. The only drawback is it's a real pain in the butt because it's not very rewarding at all because you never get that like cool beginning part to play that over and over. So that's the only drawback. But other than that, I would suggest working on that. And let's move on to the bass and the drums and start making this thing sound like a song. So sadly, the lesson preview has come to an end, and it's time to say goodbye to everyone watching the free streams. Of course, paying subscribers at learnpianolive.com can continue watching this lesson and several hundred others like it in the archives. So come on over and check us out, and if you like what you saw, at least like and subscribe, and then tell your friends to head on over to learnpianolive.com to start enjoying this journey with us.